podcast.
Good. Right. Today, I'm buzzing. I think we're going to have a really good chat on this one. We've got a guy called Dan Brown. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, mate. Really is. Dan's got a company, We Build Trades, marketing agency for construction people. And what's really important for me on this is that from my experience with marketing companies, there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of them that promise a lot of different things. Dan is very similar to myself and says it how it is. And, he's got no airs and graces and no bollocks really about it, which is refreshing in any industry to see a lot of that. So I think for me, Dan, it's really good to sort of start this off and explain to people, well, what do you actually do as a company? Like, what do you actually offer people?
Yeah, so We Build Trades is the main company, which is a marketing agency. And we try and become a one-stop shop solution specifically for home service companies. Started off working with plumbing and heating companies, was kind of solving the big problem that they had, which was generating leads on demand. Realized that if we could do it for one company in Birmingham in the UK, we could do it for a company in Newcastle, Edinburgh, Glasgow, wherever it was. And that would be a much easier way for us to scale. So that's what we did. Grew to around 35 different plumbing and heating companies. And the beauty of working in one specific niche is that you can really go deep into solving their challenges. And that's ultimately what business is. It's finding what the problem is and providing the best solution. So once we'd solved this problem of generating our clients' leads on demand, they then encountered other problems like not being able to have their ads on because they haven't got the manpower or the systems in place or the operations to be able to deal with that new demand. So we just started really going deep with our clients, and We Build Trades is the result of us working very closely with those clients, tailoring our services around their needs and just making the process as seamless and simple as possible. So the main business is We Build Trades. Last year, we added a software component to the business called the Trades Gang, which I'm repping now in my polo.
Yeah, he's on it.
Yeah, on it. So we've got the Trades Gang, which is where when the We Build Trades websites and whatnot generates the lead, the Trades Gang is what the business can use to manage the lead and just systemize and streamline their internal processes.
So that's more of the software side, isn't it?
Correct.
So like when a lead comes in, it tracks it, manages it, turns it into a job, that side of things. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's
Cool.
there's two systems. This is why we wanted to get into it, because a lot of trades will have kind of a job management system, field management, whether that's Simpro, ServiceMate, or whatever it is. But a lot of them don't have a good system for managing the lead, nurturing the lead. And these days, people are going to get a few quotes. They're not just going to go for the first person they come across. So having a good follow-up system, we call it a retention system, to nurture that lead and get them to the point where they become a job, become a customer. That's really important. So a good thing with the Trades Gang is it integrates to the front end of the marketing, the websites, Facebook, Instagram. But on the back end, it also integrates with those job management softwares. And a common thing that we hear all the time is the effort that has to be put into manually entering contacts into these systems. It's just a pain in the arse.
Yeah.
So being able to have that managed automatically through a system, it's a big time saver.
Definitely. And to be honest, mate, I think there's a bomb there in what you said there. The word follow up is the key of sales, like whatever industry you're in, not just construction. It's the follow up is where you actually close the deals. And you find out the information of why the client's not getting back to you or stalling. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I know for a fact in construction, a lot of people do quotes and then just moan that the client's not got back to them. And you're like, you've got to fucking work for it. Like, you can't just send a quote and expect to win every job. You've got to actually do the follow-up part. So you're dead right. Tracking that and having a system to do that just makes that a little bit easier to do, doesn't it?
Definitely. I used to work in sales. On the floor, like a telesales environment, which is you've just got people ringing all day, like a boiler room. And one of the things that always stuck with me was my manager always said the fortune is in the follow-up.
Yeah, agreed.
And that's the great kind of principle to live by. No matter what business you're in, the fortune is always in the follow-up. You're paying to acquire the lead. It makes sense to invest money into following up with that lead, so you're not leaving money on the table.
Yeah, exactly. It's communication, isn't it? You know, this is the art of any sort of sales or marketing. It is the communication with other people, because you just don't know what they're thinking. And I think a lot of people just assume, because this is a common thing that I come up against, and you might agree with this or have some input as well, Dan, is sometimes they already assume they're too expensive when they just haven't heard back from the client. It's like, but you don't know that, because that's not the main reason that people buy. It is not. And I think when it comes to your side of the fence with like marketing and brand to an extent, sometimes that's worth more, and people will actually pay more to go with a company because their brand and their marketing is better than someone who's a Jerry, I call them, like a decorator on their own with like shit all down them, compared to a really good brand. Because not everyone buys just on price, do they?
Definitely not.
It's not the main criteria. And, you know, you can back that up by, there's always a certain amount of the audience that will fly first class, business class, the nice hotel versus the dog shit Butlins. There's always two camps, whatever market you're in. And I always prefer to be in the higher end market. I think you get better clients, you get paid more money, you earn more money. It's a better place to be in, isn't it? And I think people need to get their heads around that a little bit, that just not being lazy, that the follow-up is so important, and really understand that part of it.
Yeah, there's two ways I'd go with that. I mean, I always say that all this fancy marketing stuff that we put in place for our clients, the actual goal is just to initiate a conversation. It's to get someone to put their hand up and say, I am potentially interested in the service that you offer, and I'm willing for you to speak to me about it.
Yeah.
It's that initial conversation. And what we've found, and I speak to, as you know, literally, I've spoke to thousands of home service business owners. And a lot of them, when I first speak to them, they think that they must compete on price.
Yeah.
Whereas when you actually work with a more kind of seasoned business owner who has this infrastructure set up, I was literally talking about it with one of my clients yesterday, where they have that many boiler leads coming into the business that they've only got 24 hours in a day. Their engineers have only got a certain amount of time in the day, which means that they can only do a certain amount of jobs in the day. So if they've got the demand coming in with leads and it's getting too much, they can up the prices to deal with that demand.
Yes.
So they're actually able to charge more and still deal with the same amount of work, because they've created that predictable generation system.
Yeah.
So yeah, I completely agree. Like, the follow-up's massively important. Having the conversation is massively important, and having the systems and processes where it's not kind of you're desperate, which is why you're kind of reducing the price as low as it can be. When you're in that kind of abundance mindset and you've got an abundance of leads there, it puts you in a powerful position with pricing.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what we're finding across the board a lot, across all of our clients and with ourselves in our own agency. And I'm sure you've found it as well, Dean, in your own business.
Yeah, it's crazy, mate. And to be honest, the jobs that you don't really want and you go, oh, well, fuck it, just put more money on it. They're always the ones you fucking win. Because you put a silly price in because you don't really want it, and you get it. And you're dead right about this whole, we're getting a bit deeper in like the whole psychology of abundance mindset, because when you've got loads of work, you can be a bit more, not bolshy, but it's just confidence because you know what you're doing and you're good at what you do. It's two different things. Whereas when you've got no work at all and you're fighting for the next job, you'll almost cut off your nose to spite your face just to win it all the time. And it's not a good fucking place to be in. And this is the key, isn't it? That I always used to think that sales was the best skill in the world, but it's actually marketing. That's actually what I've come to learn in the last couple of years, that actually it's the marketing is the most important element of any business. And I'm not saying that just because you're on here, Dan. I'm saying that from my point of view of learning as a, you know, going through stages in business, when actually it's actually getting people to, like you said, put their hand up and contact your business. And when you do that really well, I think you'll agree as well, sales is actually quite easy when you've got the right people knocking on your door. And I think that sales is typically been seen as like like the DFS man or the Perry's car showroom man, like sleazy. They have to use tactics to convince people. Whereas where I'm going with that is, I think when you've got the right marketing, people are already pretty much sold before you even speak to them. It does all that heavy lifting for you, doesn't it? The right marketing.
Definitely. I've experienced that a lot within my own business with clients who, by the time I have my first conversation with them, they're already bought in because they've already watched hours of our content,
Yeah,
like you with your podcast. Like there's
yeah,
thousands and hundreds of people who are probably listening to you every week,
yeah,
and you've never even had a conversation with them.
definitely.
So by the time you have that conversation and it turns into the sales pitch, it's not actually a pitch, and you don't actually have to use tactics because your marketing's done the heavy lifting, like you said, and it's
Yeah,
more actually order taking.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And do you know what? I don't think people fully grasp the opportunity of the internet as well and how to leverage it properly. And again, this is coming from my own views, right? I don't particularly like social media. Like, I don't like putting my own life on there, my own shit on there. I don't really want people knowing what I'm up to and what I do, because I don't subscribe to the whole. A lot of people use the wrong tactics to get attention, like, I don't know, hiring cars or being in places and ordering a starter because that's all they can afford and taking a picture to say they've been there. I fucking hate that shit, mate.
We spoke about this the first time we spoke, mate. I knew I'd get along with you because we share this. It's that
it
kind
kills
of
me, mate.
bullshit, and it's
Yeah, it
so
fucking kills
cringy and
me.
desperate. It's
Yeah, it
I
kills
agree.
me. It's bullshit. And I think people are getting a bit more switched on to that. But what I mean is, I think when you use it in the right way, like doing this podcast, thousands of people can watch this, where it's just a conversation between you and me.
Mm.
And people will watch it and they'll either like me or like you, or they won't. And I'm totally cool with that. Do you know what I mean? I'm totally cool with it. But you do attract the right people that do want to work with you and you have business relationships with, because that's another important thing that I think people lose that with social media, that at the end of the day, you're still building relationships with people. And that is the forefront of business. It's
Mm.
relationships. But you've just got to leverage it and use it to your advantage. And that's the world I'm sort of getting into now. But yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting. So
Yeah, with social media, because again, it's a bit weird for me because I run a marketing agency and we do social media as part of our business. A lot of people just naturally expect me to be kind of extroverted, being on social media all the time. But
yeah,
I'm actually not that. I'm very similar to you. I like to keep myself to myself. I like to be private with my personal life until I'm in a position where I want to start building my personal brand. And I think this is a really important thing that I've kind of come to learn through mentors and whatnot. And something that I feel is something that a lot of business owners need to learn is just like anything, like social media, it is just a tool.
yeah,
And you don't want to do something for the sake of doing it. So the amount of people that I speak to on the first call and they just have no clarity. They're like, I need to be posting on social media. I need to be blogging. I need to be doing SEO. I need to be doing all these things. If you've got a following on your Facebook or Instagram page of 100 people or whatever, and you're posting 5 times a day and you're not doing any paid ads, that is a complete and utter waste of time
yeah,
in a lot of cases, because it's just posting for the sake of posting. Facebook and Instagram, these are pay to play platforms now. If you want to reach new audiences, if you want to grow your boiler installation company, you need to be marketing people who need new boilers, not marketing to your nan and your sister-in-law who follow your page.
yeah,
And I feel like that is a common trap that people fall into because of all the noise out there. Oh, I must be doing this. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. It leads to procrastination where they don't do the actual necessary things that they need to do to move the needle in the business.
yeah,
And they're on this hamster wheel going round and round, running faster and faster, but they're never actually moving anywhere. And it's a shame. And it's because there's a lot of gurus and a lot of these experts that paint this picture online with the fake cars, with
yeah,
the kind of, with basically what they're trying to sell that miscommunicates what's actually important. And I think, as you said, social media is just a tool. And the goal of the tool, in my case anyway, is to generate new business. So
Yeah.
we literally
Yeah.
won't post a lot on social media until we run an advertising campaign. We'll go really aggressive on the advertising campaign. And like, I've never blogged. I don't think I've ever done a blog for my business in 6 years.
Yeah.
But it's never affected my ability to bring on new clients. I don't post on social media every single week or even every month. I'm very inconsistent because I know what's important for me is having a system where I can generate leads on demand.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
I've got a system, if I've got a paid marketing system that I can turn on and off like a tap, why do I need to be blogging? Why do I need to be stressing about how many times I'm posting on social media? I
Yeah.
don't. I just need to turn the tap on when I need to and turn it off when I don't need leads.
Yeah. I think that's fucking huge, to be honest, mate, because one thing you said there, people just posting and not really getting any traction. I think a lot of people fall in the trap of just doing it for the vanity and like looking for likes sometimes and actually getting a bit like upset when people don't like stuff or don't comment on it. And you're like, who gives a fuck? Like, it's
That's the
not
trap.
for that. And that is
That's
the
the trap.
trap. But I think that's really the trap that a 16-year-old girl falls into, who's like, trying to get looks and images because she wants to have a fucking brand like come to her and give her a big sponsorship deal or something. But when you're talking about grown men, especially in construction, and they're falling in that trap, I'm going, what the fuck is going on? Like, that is not what it's for. Like, you need to like get a hold of reality a little bit, because you're dead right. A marketing system, no different to any other system, should be that. It should be a system that if you, in terms of marketing, it's, well, I spend this much and I get this many leads, and that's either profitable or it's not. And it should be really as clear cut as that, as like any other business decision. If we do this, we get X result, and that's what we want, yes or no. It really is simple as that, isn't it? And I think that's where it all gets a bit lost, that step one, people don't actually work out how much business they actually need, and then work that backwards up the food chain and go, well, what's your conversion rate? And, I'm still learning all this stuff, mate. But for me, the conversion rate before was doing quotes and tenders. We knew we would win 1 in 3 on average. You know what you need to be turning over, so you know how much you need to price a month. Simple as that. But then that goes further up, doesn't it, with what you're doing and offering people, is going, well, how many leads do you need top end every week, or however you look at it, to actually give you the business you want, turning over the money you want, to make you the money you want? And that's really what it is, isn't it? You've got to start ground zero. So if I was a new company, Dan, or someone listening to this going, all right, cool, this sounds good. What's the steps that you actually go through, and what do you guys actually set up for people? How does it work?
Yeah, great question. So when I used to work for Yellow Pages back in the day, and working for
The
that, the
the OG Yellow Pages.
I've done a year on the phone telesales, and I've got a lot to thank them for. Although they've got a lot of, they've gone downhill a lot in recent years. The woman who hired me, I worked at McDonald's before I started working at Yale. So she took a big chance on me. And that's what gave me the introduction to this marketing sales world. So I've got a lot to thank Yale for.
Yeah.
But basically, what I found was that when I was going out and speaking to these business owners, I needed a way to communicate like how they needed to look at their marketing, because the problem is that marketing is very complicated and there's so many things that you need to be focusing on. And as human beings, one of the valuable lessons that I got early on was that we think in images. So if I tell you, Dean, now to shut your eyes and think of your fridge at home, an image of your fridge has just flashed in your head. If I say think about your van or your dog or whatever it is, an image will have just flashed in your mind. Now, if I say to you, think of your marketing strategy, most business owners, they don't have that picture.
Yeah.
And that's why it leads to so much frustration, overwhelm, and stress. Because if you don't have the picture, how do you know what to work on next? You haven't got that step-by-step blueprint. So if I had 10 minutes with a brand new business owner and I had to communicate the most amount of value within that 10 minutes, what I'd do is explain what I've just explained to you and then try and help the business owner build that marketing picture. So the next time they're getting knocks on the door and sold and these cold calls from these SEO companies that are going to get them on page 1 of Google yesterday,
Yeah.
they've got this picture that clarifies it, and they can kind of separate the bullshit from what's actually going to move the needle within the business. And the way we look at that and the way we do it within the business is we have found that if you have a business with a proven product or service, so let's say you now with your construction business, you're a qualified, whatever it is, electrician, heating engineer, you've got the systems in place, you've got a little team, you've got someone in the office answering the phone, but you've kind of hit this glass ceiling where you're relying on word of mouth for all these lead generation companies. You now need a marketing system to be able to scale up the business. And when it comes to that marketing system, the kind of the way we break it down is there's 4 different strategies that you need to have in place to create this predictable marketing system. And this is the picture that we draw out. So we literally get you to get a piece of pen and paper. In the middle of the piece of pen and paper, write the word "my business" in a square box. And then around the square box, draw circles in each corner. So you've got a box in the middle with 4 circles around each corner. And in the first box, in the top left corner, you'd write the word traffic. And traffic is the first strategy we need to focus on, because when Susan goes to Google and she's looking for a new boiler, or she needs to get a gas safety certificate, or she needs a new resin driveway or a new bathroom or whatever it is, we can all agree that 9 times out of 10, if she doesn't know someone who already does that, she's going to go to Google. She's going to go to a search engine and look for it. So straight away, common sense tells us that if she's doing that and you're not on Google, you've lost the race straight away. So the first thing that you need is an effective traffic strategy to be in the places where your potential customers are when they're looking for the services that you provide. And that's pretty common sense.
Definitely.
Now, once you've got that traffic strategy, in the circle in the top right corner, we'd ask you to write the word conversion. Because if Susan now sees your ad and she clicks through to your website and it's shit, or it's not mobile optimized, or it takes 3 hours to load, then she's just going to click back and go to one of your competitors. So once we've got a traffic strategy, we need an effective conversion strategy to turn that visitor into a lead. Absolutely critical. And it's funny, the only time I've been to America was actually in 2019 for an event called the Traffic and Conversion Summit. Have you heard of that?
I might have done, because I see a lot of different marketing stuff come up. So who runs that, mate?
It was Digital Marketer, the company. The guy who owned it at the time was called Ryan Dice.
I've heard of him. I've come across him.
He's the OG, mate, when it comes to like digital marketing.
Is he the man? Is he? He's the man.
He really is. So they had this massive conference in San Diego. I think it had like it was either 3,000 or 6,000. I can't remember which, but they had a lot of people there. And their whole summit is called the Traffic and Conversion Summit. And it's for those 2 first features, the 2 strategies. You need the traffic strategy to get people to the door. And then you need the conversion strategy to get them to make them want to come in the door, basically.
That makes sense.
The next step, which is exactly what we were just talking about, is what we call your retention strategy. So in the bottom right circle, we'd ask you to write the word retention. And this is making sure that when someone becomes a lead, you're nurturing them and following up with them, which is what we've spoke about at the start of the podcast. To get them to, when they actually reach the buying decision, you're the obvious choice. And always give a really simple example, because a lot of this, Dean, and you'll agree, it's just common sense. It's just never being communicated in this way to a lot of businesses where it is that kind of simple. So if we've got this woman, Susan, in this case, who needs a new boiler, she goes to Google on a Monday and she does a search for new boiler installation near me. She sees your ad and she clicks through to your website. Within the first 30 seconds of her customer journey, you can see that your traffic strategy and your conversion strategy both play a role. You need to be there, and then you need to put an offer in place, an offer on the landing page that she lands on that gives her the information that she wants. And for what we find across home service in the industry, most people are looking for a free quote. They want a quote. So we'll put that in place to give it a user-friendly experience to get them a free quote. So now let's say Susan's done that, but common sense again tells us that she's probably not going to go with the only company she gets a quote from. She's probably going to shop around. And these days with the internet, she can probably get 3 to 5 quotes within a couple of minutes because of how easy it is online to do that. So if we said Susan became aware she had a problem on a Monday, but she didn't come to a buying decision until the Friday, then your retention strategy is asking the question, what are we doing as a business on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to follow up with Susan, to build trust with Susan? So when Susan eventually reaches that buying decision, we become the obvious choice.
Yes. Yeah.
And we're maximizing, because we've already spent the money on Monday. We've spent the money for when Susan clicked from the ad to our landing page. So we want to just add in those little bits extra to make sure that we actually are maximizing our returns. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And that links to what we were saying earlier, mate, about what really the follow-up, because even without the lead coming from the internet, like a lot of people do a quote and they'll spend the time doing the quote. They might go around someone's house for an hour, then spend 2 hours doing the quote, but then don't follow up. So it's like you spent all your time, which has costed you money, which is the same as getting an inquiry from the internet. You've done the work, but then if you're not following that up and nurturing it, as you say, you're a fucking idiot, really.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you actually look at that in common sense, and people need to zoom out a little bit sometimes for actually what they're doing. You know, why do 90% of the work and then not do any action? And I'll tell you one of the reasons why that is, because I know this industry so well, is that a lot of it's ego. It's the ego of, well, I've done the quote. What fucking more does a client want? And that's the wrong attitude to have.
Complete wrong attitude.
What is that sort of attitude?
People are busy. They've got things to do. They could get distracted. We commonly have, like, our clients say that like they'll follow up with someone 5-6 times. Like the first 4 times, they didn't even answer the phone.
Yeah.
It was on the 6th time when they spoke to the customer, and for whatever reason they couldn't answer, and then they become a customer. Now, if you give up after the first phone call, think about how much money you're leaving on the table. So common thing that I see all the time, and I agree. I think ego does play a big part in it.
Yeah, construction as a whole, the industry is riddled with ego. It's like, well, they either want to go with me or they don't, or like it or lump it, you know, and it's this sort of attitude. And it's like, the world is not like that anymore. Like, you can't be lazy and get away with that, especially with, you know, I don't really give a shit about things like recessions, because I think good companies and good people survive and they do well in them. But it's the same people that worry about recessions, the ones with the attitude and the ego not to follow up, or just be really slick, be a slick business, because there is a way of doing it. Like, I think people, again, like we said earlier about the sales thing, they see follow up as sleazy and needy. And yes, there is a right way to do it, because if you are someone that phones up 5 minutes after you sent a quote and then you're phoning them every hour, you do look like a dick, you know? Whereas if you're just doing it professional and being, you know, organized and structured to it, that's completely different. It's like anything.
100%.
There's a good way of doing things and there's a bad way of doing things.
Definitely.
So yeah, the whole retention thing makes perfect sense, mate. So what's the last bit then, mate? What's the last step?
Well, what's interesting is that there's actually another part of the retention strategy. And again, you just hit the nail on the head. It's not just the retention of the lead, which is what we've just spoken about, but it's also the retention of the customer. Because another really valuable lesson is, who's the easiest person to sell to? Someone who you've already sold to.
Yes.
That is a very valuable lesson. Who's the easiest person to sell to? Like your past customers, people who have already built up that trust with you, where they've purchased already in the past. And an important thing when that comes into marketing is understanding not just the transactional value right there and then. So Susan buys a boiler from me today for 2.5 grand. Out of that, I make 600 quid profit. It's asking, okay, if I treat Susan right, if I retain her as a customer, then she's going to be using me every year for a service, 100 quid a year over 10 years. That's an extra grand.
Yeah.
She could potentially refer me to Bob and Pete and Steve.
Yes.
which is extra value. So
Yeah.
that's another really important thing that I don't think a lot of kind of these front end marketing companies talk about. Yes, there's generating the lead, and you've got to retain the lead until they become a customer. But then you need to have things in place to provide the absolute best customer service possible at all stages. And you need to have a retention strategy in place to make sure you're checking in on the customer. So maybe after you've completed the job, 7 days after, you send an automated text or email saying, "Hi, Susan, we recently installed a boiler for you and just wanted to send a quick email asking how everything was and if everything was okay. Please feel free to reach back out to us if you've got any questions or concerns."
Yeah.
That can be automated. You don't have to put any effort into it, but think about what Susan's thinking.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Very,
touch
very
point.
valuable. So that's the retention covers both of those parts. And then the final strategy, and again, this is something we briefly touched on just, is what we call your optimization strategy. And it took me a while to learn how to spell that word, so don't worry, I'll give you a
It's a
minute,
big one.
mate. It's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, so the optimization strategy is just realizing that marketing, like anything in life, it's never going to be set it and forget it.
Yeah.
Like things are constantly changing, things are constantly evolving, your competition are evolving, technology is evolving, all of these things around us, the economy is evolving. So your marketing has to be constantly tweaked, constantly tested, and you need to have a very good understanding of the data and let the data guide your decisions rather than what someone's trying to sell you or an opinion. And this goes back to, again, what you said just, where like a common thing, Dean, what I get is people will come to me and they'll say, "Dan, what should my marketing budget be? What, like, how much do you think I should be spending a month on marketing?" And I always say to them, like, the first thing is, like, you have to appreciate that that is a completely wrong question to be asking, because who am I to say how much you should be spending on marketing when I have no idea about your business? I have no idea about your capacity and what you can bring on. A better way to think about that question is, okay, we're going to build this machine. And then once we've built the machine, we're going to run a test on the machine. So just like you build a car, you then test the car before you just put it out onto the road. It's the same with anything. So the way we think about things within our business, and I literally have we build trades through paid advertising. So we really practice what we preach with this. Like we spend thousands and thousands of pounds on ads. And I'm not going to be spending that money unless I know confidently I'm going to be making a return. And it's that same mentality that we bring into our clients. So what we do is, the first step is we build the machine, step one. The second step is we test the machine. And then the third step is we improve the machine. So we build it, we test it, and we improve it. So when it comes to your marketing strategy and how much you should be spending on a budget, a lot of kind of marketing agencies and gurus out there will say, "Oh, you should be spending X amount of your revenue," or "You should be spending $2,000 a month." $2,000 a month just seems common. You should be spending $2,000 a month on your marketing. Whereas the way I look at it is, I say, look, we need to run a test first. So for example, if we run a 10-day test and we spend £1,000 and we get, I don't know, let's just say we get, each click is £5, which means that if you've got £1,000 over 10 days and each click's £5, you're going to get 200 leads.
Yeah,
that's how that works. So we now know that your cost per click is £5, and now you've got 200 leads. So now let's reverse engineer what happened. So out of those 200 leads, let's say that you spoke to 150 of them, which means that 75% of them were good leads, 25% of them were shit leads.
Yeah.
Out of the 150 good leads, let's say that you spoke, you booked in a survey, which is the next step in your sales process. We've got a visitor to a lead. To, in a lot of cases, you want to survey, you want to go out and survey the job, quote it. So let's say you've, out of those 150 good leads, you actually go out and survey 50 of them. That means you've got a 33% conversion rate from lead to survey.
Yep.
Now, out of those 50 surveys, again, these are just hypothetical numbers, but let's just say you closed 25 of them. So now from survey to job, you've got a 50% conversion rate. You've done 50 surveys. You got 25 jobs. Now, out of those 25 jobs, you work out how much each one was and you work out your total revenue. So you say each job was each job was £10,000 and I made £1,000 profit on each one, which is 10%. So that means you've done 25 jobs, you made £1,000 profit on each one, which now means you've made £25,000 profit minus the ad spend, which was £1,000, means your return on investment was you spent £1,000, made 25 grand back, which means you've netted 24 grand.
Yeah. Exactly.
So then you've got the numbers, and then I can ask you a better question. So instead of you saying, Dan, what's your marketing budget? I can say, how many new customers do you want next month? And you tell me you want 10 customers. Well, I just times 10 by your average cost per acquisition that we've just worked out, and that will tell me what your marketing budget needs to be.
Yeah.
So it's actually taking kind of a data-driven approach to your business rather than doing what most business owners do, which is cross your fingers and wish for the best. And then when it doesn't work, you think that marketing doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like the analogy that I always give is most
Agreed.
business owners treat marketing like riding a bike. They get on the bike, they fall off, and then they think the bike don't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the sophisticated
Definitely.
business owners, they go into it with a bit of common sense and they realize that, look, the first time I get on the bike, I'm probably going to fall off. The first time I run some ads, I might not make a return on investment. The key is to learn from my mistake, get back on the bike and keep doing that enough until eventually you're the one riding the bike no-handed whilst all your competitors are still walking.
Yeah.
Because they never took the process to go through that kind of learning journey. So that from a new business owner, and this is any business, I think, because every business needs a predictable marketing system. I need it within my business. You've got it within your business.
Yeah.
Our clients need it within their businesses. So I think that advice is kind of universal. And just as it applies to my business, I think it would apply to a new home service business as well.
Yeah, I think that the thing that stand out for me there, Dan, is that one, I think with marketing as a whole, and I'm speaking from experience as well, so I think a lot of people will relate to this, is that it's like anything. There's good people out there and there's bad people out there. But when you don't know what you're talking about, you can easily go with the wrong people. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of like youngsters, the 16-year-old, the 18-year-old, the 20-year-old, whatever, who go, I'll do your social media for you. And it's one of your mates' sons or daughters or whatever. And we did this, you know, you take someone on and it's like 400 quid a month and they'll start doing some posts for you on social media. You then do that for 3 months and you go, well, nothing's happened. And then you go, well, marketing shit, because you don't understand the world and the bigger picture of what we're speaking about now, like the whole conversion thing, you know, and have a proper built system. I think people just go with just throwing some shit against the wall and then going, yeah, like you said, that, you know, you get off the bike and then you go, this is shit, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. And I think for people to flip that, you know, for people listening to this in construction and that, they all understand that a house is built in a particular way. It's built on foundations. It's built on good substructure, roof, you know, all the electrics, all the plumbing inside it. They get that. It's not as simple as just toshing up a building, but they understand that because that's the industry and the trade that they're in, and they understand that's where their expertise are. Whereas marketing is not just put some posts up and get a result. There's a whole system to it, isn't there? And that's
definitely,
I think that's my biggest learning curve, is that there's a lot of shit involved in this and you don't know what you don't know. And it's a big can of worms, isn't it? Because there are people out there that are happy just to sign people up on a retainer, not even a retainer, just we want 800 quid a month and we don't really give a fuck what results you get. There's a lot of people out there like that, because they just want, in my mind, the reason they want that is because they just want a fixed income every month coming into their business as a marketer, if you like.
Yeah.
They want the comfort of just recurring money coming in, but the result of the client is not really on their radar. That's secondary, which is, a massive problem being in business, because you're not going to be in business very long being like that, because the customer's always got to win, haven't they? Always, always. And I think that's what I really liked about you, Dan, of like, you know, not blowing smoke up your ass, but just seeing like a different perspective and someone that actually gives a shit about doing a good job for the customer. Because you know, and I know, if a customer's saying good things about you, it's going to pay you 10 times over the years in dividends, you know. So it's, I think people need to have a mindset shift for that and understand that you're not going to be an expert in marketing when your expertise is either a tradesman or a construction business owner. You need to understand that you need to bring some experts in to deal with that. I think that's where people struggle a lot in business, actually, is not actually, whether it's the ego thing again, mate, or not, of going, I don't know about this, so I need to find the person that fucking does know about it. That's what business is like. And you go through levels. You know, you said it very early on that you can go from a point of, right, I don't really know marketing, to then having a system set up and you go, shit, I need to turn that off because I haven't got the capacity to deal with it. So you then create the next problem. And then really, that's all business is. It's going from one problem to the next, and your reward for solving a problem is a bigger one. And it feels like a kick in the dick at the time, but that's just what it is. Like, that is the game. And I know you said about this offline yourself as well. You know, you only bring so many clients in, and then you reach the problem of, whoa, we need to keep the quality here. We can't just keep taking people on. And I think that's a real big sign of respect and good attitude of, no, we need to deliver for our clients, because a lot of companies just pump and dump, don't they? They just want to get money
100%.
in, money in, and not have everyone's best intentions at heart. And I think that's a real short-sighted way of being in business, because business is a long game. It is not about just making a quick buck now. Those people come and go, but the people that stay have got a wider view on things. So I think that's a really important thing to like really point out, really, in what you're saying, because it is so important.
Yeah, there's multiple levels to it as well, man, because like, are you familiar with Ty Lopez?
Yeah, I've seen that guy about. Yeah.
So when I was leaving Yale, there was a massive block of social media marketing agencies that kind of appeared, and he was promoting a course on it where it's like, this is a new business model: manage social media for your clients and get paid $2,000 a month or pounds per month, etc.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, a lot of 16-year-olds, like people who are starting out, like, seems amazing, seems incredible. What, I can go and pitch a client and get paid £2,000 a month.
Yeah.
And to go with what you were saying, like, the problem in the marketing space, or one of the problems which leads to all of this kind of clients getting burnt, is the fact that there's such a low barrier to entry.
Yeah.
So like, anyone can call themselves a marketing expert. Anyone can go and set up a Facebook ads campaign or even a Google ads campaign. Like, the barrier to entry is minimal.
Yeah.
Just like with trades, like, as long as you've got some tools in a van, you can go out and do what you need to do. So it's very similar in the marketing space. And what that does is it leads to a kind of epidemic of these people who get in, they promise the world, and they don't think about the retention of the client.
Yeah.
So like, what I was seeing, and this was heavy back in 2017 and 18, like, the amount of people that I've saw come and go, mate, blow your mind.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. But what people were doing was, they'd do this social media course, they'd go out and they'd say, I'm a digital marketing expert and I can help you, Mr. Dentist, get this amount of free teeth whitening sessions in X amount of time and blah, blah, blah. So to the dentist, they're like, frigging hell, like, if they can do that, happy days, I'll happily pay them.
Yeah.
So then what would happen is, this new social media marketer goes out and he or she does that with 10 dentists, and they pay them $2,000 a month. So now they've made 20 grand in that month, and then they extend that over the year. So now they've made 20 grand in that month, thinking that they're going to make 20 grand every month. So now they've got a 240 grand a year business. And then what they'll do is they'll start to create courses and coaching programs on how I created a six-figure marketing agency in 30 days.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that gets more people to then come and buy into this. Whereas the key thing that they miss is it's all right to sell 10 clients in a month, but if they don't renew the next month, you're back at step one.
Yeah.
So
It's
for
mad.
me, when I first started out, it was that understanding that I feel like really kind of differentiated us and has got us to the point that we're at now, because I realized the importance of retaining clients. It's not about just making the sale. It's about making the sale and delivering on what you sold and going
Yeah.
above and beyond for that customer, to a point where our first ever plumbing company, and this is probably one of the things that I'm most proud of, the first plumbing company that we ever worked with 6 years ago, he's still a client of ours today. And he's the first client that has had the We Build Trades logo on his van.
Yeah. It's
Got our
cool.
logo on his van, which is
Yeah.
just a massive it's a massive accomplishment for us, for a client to have done that, and he'd done it off his own back. So I think that's where a lot of these business owners who I speak to have got burned. And then going into what you said then about like a lot of these business owners aren't aware of how much complexity there is to all of this marketing stuff, and a lot of them try and kind of do it themselves. Another really powerful lesson that I heard a few years ago was that, like, the key to business is not trying to be Superman and having that ego where no one can do it like me, or I'm the best at this. And if you want it done properly, you need to do it yourself. It's
Yeah.
not trying to be Superman. The key to building a real business is building a justice league, having the right people in the right places and delegating that task or
Yeah.
that responsibility to the right person.
Definitely.
And I think we spoke about this, mate, the first time we spoke, the E-Myth book.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That book, for anyone listening to this who hasn't read that book and you're in business, like, that should be your Bible.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it is
Exactly.
that, like, we got to a point where we send that book out to every new client because it just hits so many nails on the head. Like, you could be being the best plumber in the world is the complete opposite to running the best plumbing business in the world.
Yeah.
Being the best electrician is the complete opposite to being the electrician. You need to start off being the best, or delivering the best. But the trick is, and this is again what you've just said, it's then transitioning yourself out of that role into the next one. And then
Yeah.
once you've solved that role, you transition yourself into the next one until you've got money in where you can hire people to do those roles. And it goes back to what you were saying about the problem. The goal in business is solving the problem, knowing that you're just unlocking a bigger problem.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
unlock a bigger problem.
Yeah.
And the biggest businesses in the world, what they've done is solve the most problems. And if you solve more problems than your competitors do, then they can't compete with you, which is
Yeah.
where I think we get our competitive advantage. Because for someone to compete with us, they have to solve building good websites. That in and of itself is an absolute minefield when there's hackers, there's little plugin updates that you're not aware of. Like, it's an absolute minefield. Then you've
Yeah.
got the whole Facebook ads, Google ads, email marketing, your CRM system. So for any business owner, if you can go deep in a niche and just constantly solve those problems, you're going to create a competitive, it feels like a kick in the dick as you get in them problems.
Yeah.
But over
Yeah.
time, what you're actually doing is everything's benefiting you because it's creating a bigger competitive advantage for you.
Yeah.
And that's the key to really scaling a proper business and having something that you can truly be proud of.
Definitely, mate. There's fucking loads of things there that came to my mind, and I've written a couple of things down when you were speaking there. The first one is, I don't think people actually spend time to go, what do I want my business to look like? Like, what do
Yeah.
I actually want it to be? Because I think a lot of people just start it sometimes out of necessity. Like, I just need to start working, and you just go on this journey of, you just got your head looking down at shit all the time, and you're not actually looking at the bigger picture, going, what business do you actually want? Because for me, one of the things I've learned over, various companies and stuff that I've been involved in, is that it's very easy just to start, but not actually have a fucking game plan to go, what do I actually want out of life? And that's not getting, like, all like life coaching and all that sort of shit, because there's a lot of people touting off stuff that don't really know what they're talking about in that world as well. But actually stepping back to go, what do I actually want this business to look like, and actually start with a plan before you get into it, and then actually working backwards, because it's very easy just to get in and get so busy with it, and you don't really know what you're doing. You know what I mean? You're just on this hamster wheel, which is a horrible place to be. I was in that position for a long time, and you're just churning and churning. But you have to learn about this stuff, and this is it. With this links into like personal development as well. Okay, one thing that I learned a long time ago is that you will only go to a level of your own personal development. That's always going to be the limiting factor of that. And when people hear things like personal development, especially in construction, they think, "Oh, fuck off! What a load of bollocks." But it's not. It's really not, because your whole outlook on things of, well, one, being a person that does employ people, or have people do things for you, that is a skill set to learn. It's a skill set to actually let go of things sometimes, and actually understand that you're running a business and you're just moving pieces around the board. You're not this person trying to do it all on your own. Do you know what I mean? Because you're the hero and you're fucking like He-Man, like, I can do this, I'm the best at it. Because you're not. You're just not. But you've really got to grow as a person, as a business owner, to have that outlook on it. But you're dead right. Like, having some breathing space to go, right, where do I want this fucking business to be? What do I need to do that? And really niche into it. That's the biggest thing that you said there, is actually owning your area.
Yeah.
Because I think out of fear, a lot of people are like, well, yeah, we do this. But I think where that comes back to from a marketing perspective is, if you're trying to speak to everyone, you speak to no one. That's one big thing that I've learned, is that you've got to be, I am the guy, or we are the guys. This is the business. We do this, and we're the fucking nuts at it. And owning that space is it's a lot easier, isn't it? But it comes with the balls to be actually able to just do that, to be fair, and go, that's what 100%.
We do. I think like I'm lucky in that way. I've got to be honest, because I feel like I kind of fell into that. So just to go back to what you're saying with personal development, like, I could not agree more. Like, I don't think I'd properly read a book until I was like 20 years old. Like, I was your typical lad growing up, couldn't give a shit about school. All I cared about was frigging going out, chasing goals, doing all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then what happened for me was, when I was 17, I got a job working at McDonald's, and like, it just was a massive reality check, where it's like, Jesus Christ, like, there's people here who are 40 and 50 years old who were saying to me that when they started, it was just a part-time job to have some spending money. That's why I started there.
Yeah.
So if I don't fix up, am I going to be that person when I'm 40, 50 years old? Nothing against people who work at McDonald's. I worked there for 4.5 years. Got some incredible relationships with people who did that. But was that what I wanted my life to look like? And it wasn't.
Yeah.
So at the time, back when I was 17, the only way I knew to become successful was to go to school, go to college, try and get into university if you can, beg someone for a job at the end of it, work for 50 years of my life until I'm 70, and then retire at the end of it if I'm lucky, and then die.
Yeah.
That was literally throughout. Yeah. This is what we are taught. This is what we're conditioned to think throughout childhood of what success looked like. And this is why we're really blessed, but a lot of people don't appreciate why we're blessed. So that was the only route I felt like I had. So I had to literally reapply to college. I had to write my head of year a letter explaining why they should let me back, because I was such a nuisance in my first year.
Yeah.
They ended up letting me back into college. I'd done a 2-year BTEC because I flopped all my A levels. Managed to get into university, did a year at university. And then in the summer break, when we was at uni, one of my boys messaged me and he was like, yo, Danny B, I've came across this mad opportunity, bro. Like, you need to check it out. And long story short, it was this network marketing company.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, I was so naive, mate. Like, I'd never heard about pyramid schemes, network marketing. I'd never heard about any of it. I was seeing this thing and I was seeing, yo, there's a 24-year-old driving a Lambo. Like, that's a bit of me. Like, that's what I was thinking at the time.
Marketing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened was that the beauty of that company, like again, long story short, it flopped after 2 years. I did it for 2 years, dropped out of university to pursue this business.
Yeah.
Um, and then after 2 years, it completely flopped. And this is when I was left, just drop out of I was a university dropout, earning £50 a week at McDonald's because my manager cut my shifts down.
Yeah.
And literally that's when I got the job at Yale, which is why I said earlier, I'm thankful to Yale.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But what that network marketing company done after my first year of university was it introduced me to personal development. And the great thing about network marketing, no matter what you think of it, is that there was people who were very successful who had a vested interest in me because the more successful I became, the more successful they became.
Yeah.
So they was telling me like, you need to read these books. You need to look at Jim Rohn, Robert Kiyosaki, Bob Proctor. You need to go through this kind of learning. And it completely, like, again, might sound cheesy, but it completely changed my life.
Yeah.
And there's some lessons that came from that time for me that they'll always stick with me. Like, you are your biggest asset. So if you're not investing in yourself, how can you ever expect to grow? How can you ever expect to get to another level if you're not investing in yourself?
Yeah.
Success leaves clues. If you want to learn maths, listen to a maths teacher. If you want to learn how to drive, listen to a driving instructor. If you want to build a 7-figure plumbing business, what 7-figure plumbing business owners are you learning and listening from?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. If I want to build an 8-figure marketing agency, what other 8-figure marketing agencies am I learning and listening to? So personal development plays the biggest role. And if you're not investing, like, you are your biggest asset. To a point, mate, I'm not sure if I told you this, but when I started the business in 2017, the name of the business was actually called I Build Assets.
Okay.
I'm guessing you're familiar with Robert Kiyosaki?
Yeah. Yeah. I know that guy.
Yeah, so he wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he was basically, when I was at uni, like, they was giving us YouTube videos to watch. So I'm
Yeah.
paying $9,000 a year to go to uni, and when I'm in a lecture, they're giving me YouTube videos to watch. I was like, fuck that. Like, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna create my own curriculum, start learning from these successful people. Because why am I learning from a lecturer who's earning 40, 50 grand a year? All due respect to him, but he
Yeah.
does not have the results that I want.
Yeah.
Common sense. So I'm going to start learning and listening to people that do. Robert Kiyosaki was one of them. And he always said that, like, you need to build assets. You need to build assets.
Yeah.
And when I kind of started the business, I was like, okay, I want to do something that I'm passionate about. I want to do something that, like, when people ask me what I do, I want to say, well, I build assets. I build assets. That's a good name. I build assets. So it started off as that. And then when we built a team, it changed to We Build Assets back in 2018 or 19. And then, like you said, again, just going down that niche. And this is where I said at the start of this little kind of rant, where I felt a bit lucky, was because we started getting really good results for this local plumbing and heating company. And it was just like a light bulb moment where, why am I trying to learn, like, how to market a dentist and a solicitor and a financial advisor and a plumbing company, when if I can just get results for this one company and then duplicate that over and over and over and over again, and there's no conflict of interest between those companies, I've mastered my niche. It's going to be a lot easier for me to scale. It's going to make me a lot more money. And I kind of fell into that. Whereas, like, a lot of the, again, just plumbing and heating businesses we deal with, they'll do everything for everyone. They'll do bathrooms, kitchens, frigging underfloor heating, boiler repair, installation. They'll do everything.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is when you're doing everything for everyone, it's impossible, or pretty much impossible, to scale. And it ends up being a bit of a comfort zone where we've got a client where they was generating quite easily 6 figures a year just through bathrooms.
Yeah.
But the amount of headache that caused, because of, like, no job's the same. There's so many variables, so many things can go wrong. It was impossible to scale.
Yeah.
So he had to kind of get out of that comfort zone, because he was giving him a 6-figure salary. Like, that's good, 6-figure business. Sorry. Transition into something that was more duplicatable, which was the boilers in this case. Like doing the installs and getting the people on the plans for the recurring revenue. And now he's been able to get off that glass ceiling that he was limited on. And now he's gone to 7 figures because he's got that more predictable model that he can follow. So, yeah, I mean, I can't agree more. Personal development is key. Becoming a master of your craft is key.
Yeah,
and then that gives you the balls to price higher, to know your worth, and to have that confidence in yourself, because with competence comes confidence. And then once you've got more confidence, you gain more competence. And then once you've got more competence, you gain more confidence. And it's a positive feedback loop to a point where you become a different person. And it's a good place to be. It's hard to get there, but once you on that journey, which is the goal, the goal, the journey is what it's all about. Knowing that you're constantly evolving, constantly getting better, knowing that you're a different person now to who you was a year ago, in a positive way. That's an incredible, well, for me personally, that's been an incredible thing for me to witness. And I'm just very glad that we live in the world that we live in, because 50 years ago, my nan couldn't go on YouTube and learn from Robert Kiyosaki.
Yep, 100%, mate. It wasn't there, was it?
Wasn't even available. She would have had to find that person existed, find a library, go and get a book if they had it, come back. Like, think about the time difference. Whereas we now are very spoiled, and there's two sides to every coin. So with the good of that, we've got access to the world's information that we can get at the click of a finger. But at the other end of this, the other side of the coin, look at how much distraction there is. Look at how much mental health issues there are, because you're kind of looking at someone's life when they're 10 years into their journey, wishing that you was in that position now on day one. And then you think, oh, I'll never be like that. And it leads to all of these anxieties and mental health issues and all this bullshit. Which is it's real. It's really a shame. And I think personal development is what helps you overcome that. Because if you strengthen your mind and strengthen yourself and you as a person, and you understand what life is, and you understand, like, there is a process from going from a novice to a 4-figure business, to a 5-figure business, to a 6-figure business, to a 7-figure business. There's a process. And if you're not willing to follow that process, you've only got yourself to blame.
100%.
If you follow the process, the results will come. So it's
it's
personal development. I could talk to you about it all day, mate.
Mate, honestly, we could do hours on that, because I was very similar, right? The only guy that was available to me when I was younger was Tony Robbins, and I was like early 20s, right? And this is before YouTube and all this type of stuff kicked off. And he was like, right, I listened to his audio tapes in the car. And at the time, that was fucking weird to do that, right? I didn't tell anyone I was doing that, because that was weird. That was not what people did, especially where I come from, like council estates and that is not the done thing.
Yeah, man.
And then he come up, it was like, right, you can go and do a seminar in America, right? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I went and did it, which I didn't tell anyone I was doing it, because I knew the world I was in at the time, that would be frowned upon as like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you doing? I didn't even tell family I was doing it. I was like, I'm off, because you either want more or you don't. And I think if you really want something, you'll fucking find it and you'll make it happen. And I think that's an important thing to point out, that not everyone's built that way, and that's just the way that the world is. Whereas a lot of people try and be that way because of they're watching stuff all the time, but it's not actually them. They're just being sucked up by clever marketing, by people selling them courses or stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, yes, I went and did that, and it was fucking weird, man, because it was 4 days, like, and then they get you jumping on fire and all this shit. And a lot of it, not really for me, if I'm being honest, but a lot of it was really good, like groundbreaking stuff. And then it takes you on a journey of personal development, which for me, mate, fucking hell, I've probably done over 50 grand on personal development over the years. And I think, and I'm saying that not to show people, oh, look at me, I've fucking spent 50 grand on it. What I'm saying is, it's all about return on investment. And I think that's exactly how people look at it. And then this is what really fucks me off, is that there's genuine people out there, that, like you and me included in that. There's a lot of bad people out there that people just won't spend or invest the money to get ahead, but they're quite happy to blow $1,000 on a meal out in Novikov or whatever, or go to Dubai on a credit card and act like the big shot, but they won't spend thousands in the business to actually move it forward and then get a 10 times return on that, or a 20 times return. And the biggest thing for me is that the right information compounds for the rest of your life. It's not about the instant. People just want to, people will like listen to you or me and they'll go, right, I'm happy to give them some money, but I want the result now.
Yeah.
Like you've got to fucking wake up a bit. It doesn't work like that. That's not how
That's
it
not how
is.
life works.
No, it's not. And that's the flip side of what you said there of like information overload. Because it's so readily available now, people are just consuming information, but not actually doing the fucking work to make that information work for them. And it's a bit of a fucked up thing that we're in now of like actually filtering through who do you listen to? Which for me, what you said earlier is like, well, have they done or do they know what they're talking about and got evidence to back up what you want to get? And if you find the person who's done or got what you want, that's step one. Step two, I think, is actually, do you like them and can you actually work with them? That's so important that people forget. You know, you've got to get on with people, and do you relate to them? And if you do, then fucking jump in and listen to them. That's really as simple as it is. But I think people are scared because there's so much out there. It's like, well, where do you go? You can be like a rabbit in a headlights, can't you? But the flip side is, even things that I've put money into for personal or business decisions or whatever, even if it's been a wrong decision, you still learn something. And you can't be afraid of getting things wrong. Like you've got to have an attitude of, well, you're either going to learn either way. You're going to learn a good thing or a bad thing. But the quicker you learn that, the quicker you'll move on and forward. Whereas like I say, the lack of action, you can sit in hesitancy for years and never fucking move, which is the worst fucking place to be in. So you've got to, but that comes back to personal development, being strong enough to pull the trigger and actually have character to make decisions. That's a hard thing to get people to learn, I think.
But they're all things like that can be developed. Like when I look at my own personal journey, like I am a completely different person to who I used to be.
Yeah.
And it's because, again, I kind of realized that I am my biggest asset. If there's anything that I should be investing in, it's going to be myself, because like you said, it compounds. And like I have wasted so much money on shit. Like even personal development programs, like I've invested in things that have been like absolutely pointless, but that tells me what not to do in the future. So like you said, there's always a lesson to be gained from it. And a lot of people look at it as though it's all this woo shit and I'm not going to do that. I'd rather go flexing in Dubai, like you said. But like it's a lot about having the patience as well, because if just like Rome wasn't built in a day, like when we was in Dubai, we looked at how long it took the Burj to be created, and it was 6 years.
Yeah, it's mad.
So it took 6 years to build this incredible building.
Yeah.
Now, if I would have so think about that process. It's like someone had the vision and the insight to think, I want to build the biggest building in the world. Just by wanting it didn't mean that there's going to be the biggest building in the world. It took 6 years of actually putting in the work every single day, patience, to eventually get to the point where you've got the biggest building in the world. And it's the same with anything. I think the problem today is with attention spans and whatnot, TikTok life and all of this stuff. It's people want instant gratification. They want it right now.
Yeah.
And they're not willing to put in the work. And I think if you listen to some of the old school guys, like your Jim Rohns, your Bob Proctors, who sadly passed away, and Jim Rohn has as well. But like if you listen to some of these older people, they'll give you like the principles that you should be living your life by. And then what will happen is if you invest the time and you be patient and you work behind the scenes and you're not trying to frigging have a Rolex tomorrow and you're willing to put in the work into yourself, then eventually that stuff will come. And what I've found myself personally is it's like the material things that motivated me so much at the beginning. Like when I first started, all I wanted was a BMW. Like that
Yeah,
was the
yeah,
only thing that I wanted.
yeah,
But then what will happen is when you start developing yourself and you start, like, again, all I can speak about is my own personal kind of journey and what I've spoke to others about. But that materialistic stuff, it actually becomes less important.
yeah,
And it's more about kind of having integrity behind your words. Like if I'm going to go out and be a business coach, I better have built a business that's worth sharing and being
yeah,
coached like for.
yeah,
If I'm going to talk about helping a business go from 6 figures to 7 figures, I better have helped someone go from 6 to 7 figures.
yeah,
Otherwise, like I'm not going to have no integrity, and I don't want to live my life thinking that I'm talking shit and I'm not being able to practice what I preach in a way.
yeah,
And
mate.
that's so important. What's lacking as well.
That is everything, mate, because like what you said earlier, you know, like people who start a business 2 months later, they're selling a course on it and like showing people how to do it and like they know everything, right?
A 16-year-old life
Yeah,
coach.
yeah, it mate, it fucking does your tits in. And he's driving like a, I don't know, a 1995 Astra, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to teach you how to make money and invest it and all this shit. And you're like, you don't know shit, mate.
Painful.
And it's painful. And I started just having a social media presence because I wanted to grow like my own name because of I know the power of networking, knowing people. I looked at that as a 5-10 year thing of going, I just want to build relationships with people, grow my network and create more opportunities because I understand the fundamentals that business is about relationships. That never ever fucking changes. And that's what people need to really get a grasp of today. That never ever will change. Like it's relationships with 2 or 3 key people in your life, and your fucking trajectory will be way off. Like it's off the charts. That's all it is. It's not millions of people. It's 2 or 3 people in your real life that will change everything. And that's how I started it, right? And then people started asking me for advice on stuff. And I was hesitant as fuck for a long time to give advice out because I was even questioning myself, like, oh, I don't think I should really start doing that. Even though I've done what I've done, and I'm not going to sit here and say what I've done, but what I mean is people pop up after doing 2 months of business and being the expert, and it's just fucking wrong. And then the flip side is, you know, I've been in this since I was 13. I know this industry really well. I've worked in residential, commercial. We grew a big business, but I still feel like I don't know enough to be telling people what to do. Do you know what I mean? And how fucked up is that? It's just weird, mate.
I think it's because you're that close to you. Like I think it, like I have the same. I think everyone does because it's you. Like you've grew up with yourself. You know who you are.
Yeah.
You have that kind of imposter syndrome in a lot of cases, especially when you're going into something
Mm,
new. Um,
massively.
but like that is again, and it always comes back to it, mate. Like I think every conversation we have, we could always just go back to personal development.
Yeah.
You need to, even though you feel that way, even though you feel like the imposter or you shouldn't be talking about this, like you went and done it anyway, and now look at where you are in this space that you didn't even know anything about.
Yeah.
So it's that personal development that that then gives you what you need to take action, and then it's the action that leads to the result. But if you don't do the personal development, you're never going to take the action, which means you're never going to get the result. So it all starts with like what you're putting in.
Yeah. Exactly. 100%, mate. 100%. Right, Dan, we've been churning away, man. I think
We have.
we've had some good stuff on there, and I think we're going to need to do a part 2 at some point and dig into some other bits. But we've like gone off on different tangents, and that's been really good. Um, just to like sort of wrap it up for our time, Dan. What from your experience, you've worked with a lot of companies now and helped them sort out their marketing. I think it's a really good thing, and I always ask this to people: is that what's the biggest mistakes and lessons that you've seen and learned from it? Because that's where people can really learn. Because I think some mistakes people need to make themselves to really learn it. But it's a lot smarter and quicker to learn from the obvious mistakes that people make and that you see from your perspective. So what, to wrap up, mate, what's the biggest mistakes and problems that you see, very common things over and over again, that are the obvious, like low-hanging fruit for people to learn from?
I think it all comes back down to that success leaves clues principle, where if you're having any type of problem or challenge in your business, it's first becoming aware that you don't know what you don't know. There's someone out there that's already solved that problem multiple times. And rather than you using your own thoughts to try and solve a problem that your own thoughts can't solve, because you wouldn't have the problem if your thoughts could solve it, it's seeking out a trusted person who can help you solve that challenge in the shortest time possible. And that's a lot easier said than done in this world today, where there's so much noise, like we've spoken about. But it like the biggest mistake is these people, like business owners in general, they just don't have the clarity. If you don't have the clarity on what you should be doing, you're just going to be wandering around and you're never going to get to the end destination, because you've never actually defined what that end destination is. So you need to define what that destination is, find someone who can help you get there, who's got a proven track record. And a key point you said is someone who you actually can resonate with, who you can get along with. And then once you have those ingredients, it's taking action. It's actually doing the work. Because ultimately the success or failure of your business is always going to come down to you. It's not what happens, it's what you do about what happens. And when you do the right things, you'll get the right results. So yeah, I think it's just about finding having the clarity, finding the people who can help you get there in the shortest time possible, and then taking action on those things that you learn from those people.
Yeah, I agree with that, mate. I think that's really good advice. I think asking for help is a massive thing. It's finding the right people, and that's why I like actually doing the podcast, because you're going to get a really good sense of someone from listening to a genuine conversation, because there's nothing to hide on both sides. You know, we're both real people at the end of the day. And, you know, I think the disingenuous people wouldn't do that. You know, they wouldn't put themselves out there to have a conversation and just like, well, this is what I am. You know what I mean? I don't care. You know, this is me, this is you.
Some people are going to like me, some people aren't. Who gives a fuck? Like,
and be totally
I'm
cool with
staying
it.
in my lane. I'm doing my own thing. I know I've got good intentions. I'm doing what I do for the right reasons. So it is what it is, isn't it?
Exactly. Definitely, mate. Cool. Where can people find you, Dan? People listening want to reach out to you and see what's going on. Where can they find you?
The best place is our website, webuildtrades.com. We've also got the tradesgang.ai, which is the software company. We're working on some pretty exciting things at the moment, some partnerships with some of our clients, which I'm sure on part 2 we'll be able to speak about more. Cool. But yeah, you can reach out to us. We've got some great free resources on our website. I think that's how you came across us first of all. So yeah, webuildtrades.com and tradesgang.ai, and social media as well. We Build Trades.
Cool. Brilliant. Right. Thank you, Dan. Cheers for coming on, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me again. Pleasure, mate.
Top man.